we know the challenge. There's been lots of chat and lots of warm, robust words, Henry, from the Home Secretary. But what do you think of my fear-stroke prediction of 50,000 coming across this year?
Hello, Richard, and Happy New Year to you too. I think they're probably spot on. In fact, they might be an underestimate. It's possible. Until the government actually grips this situation, and it's not just about new legislation or fancy bits of paper, with lots of good sort of words of intention in there. It's actually about operationally having an impact. And until the government's got a grip of being able to do that, then I'm afraid the message is still getting across to the migrants that, they're welcome in the UK. If they can get to our shores, then they will stay here. That's the reality of the perception that they have. And even if it changes, the reality changes, it'll take some time to trickle through that perception. So they're going to keep moving. And we're still seeing right now, there is a large build-up of tens of thousands of migrants who have been moving across North Africa, the Sahel, the Maghreb deserts and so on, and moving towards the northern Libyan coast. What we're about to see, I suspect, when the weather gets a little bit better down there on the Mediterranean, is more movements across there. And of course, that's going to feed through to us as well. So, Richard, I think you're sort of certainly not exaggerating when you say 50,000. I wouldn't be surprised to see more. We'll see.
I mean, I understand that the vile people smugglers who are earning an absolute fortune, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds every single week now, they're changing the design of the boats. These boats are now specifically designed for this single crossing, knowing that then they're never going to be used again, so that they can actually be used in rougher waters, worse weather, which of course means that the process will start earlier this year. It's already starting now, essentially, and that's why the numbers will continue to grow. Well,
absolutely, Richard. And we're seeing, if we think back 18 months ago, really we were able to look at the maritime weather apps and predict the movements based on the weather conditions. But today, I mean, I'm down in Folkestone, I'm down by the Channel, and the weather is appalling here. I mean, it's more wet and windy and cold, but that's bad conditions anyway. But 130 came across this morning, came into Dover this morning. So you're absolutely right. Again, this movement is going to continue. They are going to find ways to increase it because it is their business model to get these people across, and there is the demand there. So, like any other market, as long as the demand for that movement is there, then there are going to be people exploiting it. And that's what the people smugglers are doing.
So Henry, the Home Secretary and Tory MPs, they bravely and boldly predict that this wonderful Nationality and Borders bill that is chugging its way slowly, glacially through the House of Commons will resolve all these problems. Are they right?
No, they're most definitely not right. And in fact, Richard, there are a couple of other documents that I've mentioned. I mean, people aren't going to be they're not going to have the attention span to read them, but there's this new plan for immigration that the Home Office announced on the 2nd of December. And there's a 2025 border strategy. But, I've read through these things and they're nice words and they're sort of look nice glossy documents and so on. But in reality, this is the classic case of an idea at the top, which isn't altogether bad, but with no comprehension or real idea as to how to implement it in practice. It's really the operational side. It's the upstream operational intelligence and disruption. It's the engagement of the Foreign and Commonwealth and Development Office abroad to leverage influence on foreign countries, other countries along the route to disrupt and to try and stem that flow. It's in their interest as well. We can provide capacity building targeted on that because it's in support of British interests. Basically, we've got no plan. That's the problem, Richard. We've got glossy documents and legislation, but no plan.
So if you were Home Secretary appointed tomorrow, Henry, then what would you do? In particular, how would you negotiate with France to turn off this business model?
Well, I think one of talking specific. Well, there are two. That's a broad question. There are two things. There is something called, it's mainly looking at technology on the border, but there is a cross-governmental group called the Design Authority for the Border. I would pull that together, make it a bigger, more powerful body to actually start working solidly on a national border strategy, a proper cross-governmental MOD, Foreign Office, security services, police, local government, everybody else who has a role in this. an overarching cross-governmental strategy, which does not exist. Even Albania has one of these. So does Macedonia, or Northern Macedonia. These tiny little countries, they've got them. We don't. It's a massive glaring gap in our management of this. The second thing, though, is that with France, the place we should be engaging with France, frankly, is on something called non-innocent passage. So under international maritime law, a vessel that is innocent in its objectives has free transit, and through territorial waters, you can let it go through. That's fine. It's not stopping. It's not interfering. It's not breaching any of your coastal state laws or regulations. Now, the French, it can be absolutely 100% argued that these dinghies, when they leave the French coast, or when they're preparing to leave, they are engaged in non-innocent transit. And in that case, there is a power for coastal states to intervene and to interdict that movement. The French aren't doing that. They could do that on their coast. They might need some legislative jiggery-pokery, but that's fine. And the Home Office and the government should be engaging on that. But one final thing on that, Richard, if we think back to when we were campaigning to leave the European Union, one of the reasons was to take back control of our borders. The incompetence of our own government doing that.
And they're not.
And they're not. They're not here. But in France, they've got the same problem to an extent. So we've got to deal with the European Commission as well, which we wouldn't be able to do as a member state. So we can only do it outside. But we've got to engage with the European Commission as well, because they have a great say in how their member states, including France, respond to the border. So this is another case of the European Union being quite not hostile, but certainly not helping us.
It's not going to happen overnight, and this is going to be a massive issue continuing, and I fear growing over this year. Henry Bolton, thank you so much for those thoughts. That was Henry Bolton.